Hey guys, this is the second to last video postcard from our week of travel in the south of Egypt. This postcard comes from the Temple of Philae, and I won't narrate it in the way that I usually do. Instead, I ask you to look for two core themes in the clips that I filmed. First, the natural beauty. My postcards have focused on the history, but Egypt is an ecologically breathtaking country. Second, the overlap of cultures in the walls of the temple. It's amazing to see ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs next to Roman inscriptions, next to Coptic crosses, next to 19th century graffiti. Because of both of these factors, Philae was one of the most reflective places from my time in Egypt, and I want this postcard to simulate that thoughtful feeling as much as it can. Much love.
Yes, I've got a stuffy nose. It's early in the morning here in Aswan, and I am at the Temple of Philae. Philae is it's the name of the island that this was originally on. It was moved to save it from destruction after the construction of the Aswan High Dam in the 60s or the 70s. And it is a really, really cool temple. It's not as big or historically important as Karnak or Luxor that I've also been on this trip. And I don't like it as much as I like Abu Simbel, which we went to yesterday. But the really cool thing about this temple is that it marks the kind of transition that's occurring in Egypt. So it's originally built near like local religious sites on the island of Philae. But then it's really constructed in the version that we know it during the Ptolemaic period, which is the Greek period of rule over Egypt. This place has the last, as far as we know, authentic hieroglyphic inscription. So the last time that ancient Egyptians ever wrote in hieroglyphs, or even the Demotic script, which is less important. But then it's also the place with the first Roman inscription in Egypt. So it visually represents how Egypt went from ancient Egyptians to a period of Greek rule, and then ultimately to Roman rule. It's going to be really, really cool to see. We're going to see if we can hunt down those hieroglyphs and the Roman inscription. I'm not sure that we will, but if I can, I'll make sure to show you guys. Much love. One of the craziest things to me about ancient Egypt, and specifically ancient Egyptian temples and historic sites, is what we've called the continuity of Egyptian visual production, or basically that like all the art looks the same. Behind me, this wall was likely built or carved, I guess, during that Greco-Roman period, during the Ptolemaic period. It looks the exact same as what you would see as something built 2,000 years before it. They maintained that for a long time, and it's why that imagery is so iconic. One of the other things you'll notice is that there are small crosses, let's see if I can get it here, engraved in the wall at certain locations, and that's because this spot was turned into a Coptic monastery for a time. Coptics being, I went to the Hanging Church, I've been to the monastery in Aswan, a sect of Christianity that is really, really unique and special to Egypt. They converted this place into a Coptic monastery, and so throughout the place you'll see places they've engraved crosses or they've added columns with the Coptic cross on it, just a symbol that this place, as I said earlier, is really a visual identifier of the way that Egypt as a whole is changing hands over time. Behind me is the entrance pylon for the temple. It's got these great relief carvings. These would have been larger statues originally, but what I wanted to point out is this, not Alex right there walking around, but this relief. It shows a king with his crown on top. He's holding a pear-shaped mace, and he's smiting a bunch of enemies who you can't see very well from this angle. This should look familiar. At Abu Simbel, we saw something similar. At some of the other temples, we've seen similar images, and it all harkens back to something that's called the Narmer palette. Narmer is probably a combination of a couple actual kings, and he's often viewed as the original king of ancient Egypt. We understand this, or we get this information from a palette used to mix ingredients to make dyes that depicts him clubbing his enemies in this exact same kind of style. And then on the other side, two serpopards, which are mythical creatures being tied together, which would later kind of be turned into what we call the tracheal bond, or an image with a trachea. This is a really cool piece of history that it depicts a Greek ruler of Egypt recreating a millennia-old icon of Egyptian kingship. It's the way that a foreign ruler legitimized his political control over the region. It's special. It illuminates a lot of history. There are and could be written many more books about this specific stance and how it was used over time, but it's really cool to see that non-Egyptian rulers are coming here and saying, no, I am Egyptian because look at me, I look like the first king. They do this in a number of ways, of course, the combination of the religious deities with the Greek king, but and frankly the building of Philae itself. But this is just one of them. It's easy to see. It's really exciting to know about once you know the details. Another example, back here on the entrance, there's a French inscription that talks about the French army invading Egypt and driving out the Egyptian Mamluks. It talks about the pyramids, the Mamluks, Napoleon. Really cool. What a strange thing to see the Greek juxtapose against hieroglyphs. Hi, I'm in a part of the temple called Hadrian's Gate. It's very pretty. Obviously the river is behind me, but what I want to show you is here on the wall. So right here is a Nubian god. It was defaced because obviously it wasn't Egyptian, but the crown is still visible and very, very pretty. And then to the right are some hieroglyphs. These are the last authentic Egyptian hieroglyphs ever to be written. Everything after this comes after the end of a culture that spanned thousands of years, that built the pyramids, that built Abu Simbel, one that during the Greek Ptolemaic times built the Library of Alexandria, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. This is the end of that language. It lives on in some forms today, especially in tourist shops where they try to sell you your name written in hieroglyphs. And of course we study it, we're still learning how to decipher it. But as far as we know, this is where it ends, right where I'm standing. It's crazy to see something finish in this way. Off to the side of a major temple, in a place that you could walk past easily or be distracted by the natural beauty and just miss. You can't help but think that a lot of the things that we hold dear on earth, the things that we find important and place a lot of value in, will go away, and that there will be kind of an ending marker. It's interesting, historically valuable, forgettable if you don't know that it's here. But if you do know, if you know where to look and what to find, then it's really, really impactful and makes you reflect on what you value and experience, and place your time and effort and love in. So this is where it ends. This is a sign that Egypt is transferring hands, and that the ancient Egypt that we know and that I love has officially gone away. These are the last authentic hieroglyphs.